Hello people, you're welcome to ProUp Masterclass. My name is Tola T.A. Alabi. And in today's class, I'm going to be talking about three types of people that we have in the world. The three types of people that we have in the world. And I'm going to be talking about the wise, the safe, and the foolish. The wise, the safe, and the foolish. Those are the three types of people we have in this world. You either fall into the category of the wise, or the category of the safe, or the category of the foolish. And to bring this class to life, because this class was largely inspired by a scripture I read some days ago, and I would just like to read it here. And I'm just going to take some time to read it, so if you can just be patient to listen to the scripture. It's taken from Luke 19, verse 12. And this is a parable that Jesus told people. He said, a nobleman was called away to a distant empire to be crowned king and return. Before he left, he called together 10 of his servants and divided among them 10 pounds of silver, saying, invest this for me while I am gone. But his people hated him and sent a delegation after him to say, we don't want him to be our king. After he was crowned king, he returned and called in the servants to whom he had given the money. He wanted to find out what their profits were. The first servant reported, Master, I have invested your money and made 10 times the original amount. 17. Well done, the king explained. You are a good servant. You have been faithful with a little I entrusted to you, so you will be governor of 10 cities as your reward. The next servant reported, Master, I have invested your money and made 5 times the original amount. Well done, the king said. You will be a governor over 5 cities. But the third servant brought back only the original amount of money and said, Master, I hid your money and kept it safe. I was afraid because you are a hard man to deal with, taking what isn't yours and harvesting crops you didn't plant. You wicked servant, the king roared. Your own words condemn you. If you knew that I am a hard man who takes what isn't mine and harvests crops I didn't plant, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it. Then turning to the others standing nearby, the king ordered, take the money from this servant and give it to the one who has 10 pounds. But master, they said, he already has 10 pounds. Yes, the king replied, to those who use well what they are given, even more will be given. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. 27, verse 27. And as for these enemies of mine who didn't want me to be their king, bring them in and execute them here in front of me. Now this is Luke 19, verse 12 to verse 27. And this is going to form the basis of what I'll be talking about today. The wise, the safe, and the foolish. Now, the summary of this whole scripture that I read is, there was a man, a nobleman, who was traveling to a place to be crowned king. So a nobleman, so let's say he was staying somewhere in Lagos, and he wanted to take like an appointment, a political appointment, which he could only be given in Abuja, the capital. So he had to go to the capital to be given this political appointment, to be a king. You understand? So he needed to be like a commissioner in Lagos, but he needed to take the appointment in Abuja, to be confirmed in Abuja, then come back to be a commissioner, or be a minister in Lagos, but take the conferment in Abuja. So he had to travel to become king. Now, for some reason, the people didn't like him. The people didn't like him. So there was something questionable about this guy. Maybe there was something questionable about the people or something questionable about the guy. That's very hard to tell, but the people didn't like him for some reason. Maybe he had some reputation that the people didn't like. They didn't like his reputation. So what they did was they sent people ahead of him to go to Abuja and to tell the people in Abuja that he should not be crowned king. So they went ahead of him to the town to kind of tell them, don't crown this guy king. He has these skeletons in his cupboard. He's a terrible person and stuff. So what they were expecting was when he comes there, the people that were meant to crown him king will say, we've heard that you have this and this that disqualify you from being king. So that's what they thought. So the people in his town sent a delegation because they didn't want him to be king. Now, he didn't know this while he was going, but obviously from the end of the story, he found this out maybe when he got there. Now, he said before he went, he took talent, and in my version, it's called pounds of silver. So this was money. He took money and shared it to his servants and said, I'm going for a while. You guys make money, invest this thing, and get profits and returns from this money I'm giving to you. So he traveled to go and become king. But you know what happened? Nobody tells us the events that happened in the town. But for some reason, what the crowd or the people had said about him was disregarded. And they still ended up making him king. So whatever the delegation didn't work. This man was still crowned king. So he came back and was king of the place. So when he came back and was king, the first assignment he gave himself was to check his investment. And he said there were 3 categories of servants. The first one came and said, I've invested what you've given me, and I've made 10 times the amount. And he was so glad, and he made him governor over 10 cities. The second person came and said, I've invested 2, but I made only 5. And said, okay, that's good. You'll be governor over 5. And the last set came and said, I had not invested anything. I kept it just the way it was because I know you're a wicked person. And this got him upset. And he took what that person had and gave it to the guy that had invested and got 10, the first guy that came. So that guy had more. And he was still governor of 10 cities. So that might even have meant that he gave him one more city to be governor of because he gave them according to what they returned. Now, what I want to get, where I'm going with this is, at the end of the day, he called the crowd and said all those people that send delegations, they should come, and he executed all of them. Now, I want to talk about the wise, the safe, and the foolish. Because these 3 categories of the servants represent or illustrate these people I'm talking about, the wise, the safe, and the foolish. The first servant was wise. The wise listen to authority. They listen to authority. They take their information from who is in authority. They have a tunnel vision on getting their information only from the authority. They take directives only from the authority. So whatever the authority tells them to do, they do till the authority tells them to stop. And they do it with all their heart. They pour all their heart to whatever the authority in their life tells them to do. And they do it with all their heart, and they are profitable with it. Now you have the second category of people, the safe. Now these people, they listen to authority. They hear what the authority has to say. But they also listen to the crowd. The people that send delegation to say, this guy should not become king. And they do something right in the middle. They don't work on all cylinders because they are listening to the authority and listening to the crowd. And a lot of times, the authority and the crowd are saying 2 things that contrast, 2 contrasting things. So the safe people are part-time listeners to the authority. They choose what they want to listen to, what the authority says. But at the same time, they also hang out with the crowd and listen to what the crowd says. So they play it safe so that they don't lose too much. But they never deliver much too. That's why he was able to deliver 5. Now, the last set of people are the foolish people. These people pitch their tent with the crowd. They listen only to what the crowd says. What is the gist of the day? What is everybody saying? What's everybody's thought? What's the general consensus? They never listen to authority. They are always listening to the crowd and they follow the crowd. Those are the foolish people. And those people always lose out at the end of the day. Now, I want to give an instance, something that happened many years ago when I was in university. See, I went to a university called Obafemi Awolowo University. That's where I had my undergraduate studies. And there was a time there was a civil unrest in Ife. It was between the people of Ife and another group of people in Modakeke. They're called Modakeke and Ife. It was a serious clash. Now, these people had been living together for a while, but then there was a dispute that just kind of escalated and it was very bloody. But when it started out, I was in school, and we have been hearing of clashes, just small spats or fights, but it kept on increasing, and then it was getting a lot of coverage in the media, in the news and stuff like that. And we were burning down houses, killing people, but we were in school. And school was safe. School was a no-go area. So as they were burning places, they never came to burn school. You see, because that was the only university there. And that was one of the wisest things those people did. Even though they were emotional about fighting, school was like Switzerland to them. So they never touched school because they realized that was an institution that brought attention to the town. So they never brought the fight to school. So we were never affected per se. But then, because there was such media attention about how terrible the fighting was outside of the school gate, we were so sure that the school was going to close down. We were so sure that the authorities were going to close down the school. So there was a lot of noise about the school closing down during that time of the conflict. And people said, school will close down by Monday. School will close down by Monday. Oh, they'll send us home. As a matter of fact, some people already started going home. And some people stayed. But then, what I remember was, there were some lecturers that fixed tests for that period. So there was a test that was to hold on Monday in my department. But then people were saying, they're going to close down school before Monday. By Friday, you hear that they've closed down school. It was the general gist. It was so much. So, some people, because of this gist, never ever prepared for the test. They're like, oh no, I'm going to have this test. We are going home on Monday and stuff like that. And I'm like, when you hear that, like, everybody's saying it. Everybody's saying it. We are going home. So some people just didn't read for the test. They went around partying, just living their life, lounging without reading, studying for the test. They didn't study for the test at all. I had a second category of people who studied, but they didn't study too much. And they were like, okay, what if the authority hasn't come out to say school will be closing? But the gist is so thick in the air. School will close. So they didn't put their full effort into reading or studying for the test. And he had a third category of people who ignored what people were saying and said, I will stop studying when the authority from the Senate building say the school has closed, and I read that letter. So they studied like if nothing was happening. And you know what happened? Monday came and we had the test. We had like 3 tests that week. School didn't close till about 2 or 3 weeks later. So we had several tests. And a lot of people failed tests because they didn't prepare anymore. They switched off their academic brain to their relaxation brain because of what the crowd was saying. You see, the wise people waited for information from the Senate building until that letter from the Senate comes out. They do not care what everybody is saying. They believe that 99% of people are wrong till the relevant 1% comes out with information. The safe people went 50-50. And those people, when the test result came out, it was 50-50. They failed some, they passed some, they came out with average scores. The foolish people totally failed because they listened to gist, the general gist. What are people saying? And they ignored what the authority at the Senate said. You see, one thing we must know is that the crowd is loud, but they have very little influence. The crowd might be loud. They can create noise, but they cannot really move things. The authority moves things, but the authority might be silent, might be quiet. You might need to focus on what they are saying. But a lot of times we listen to the loud and we follow the crowd and we act foolishly. Most times we act safe, and it puts us in this place of limbo when we are neither rich, we are not poor. We are not brilliant, we are not dumb. We are not weak, we are not strong. We are not hot, we are not cold. We are just lukewarm. The problem with the safe people is they are safe, but a lot of times they hate their very existence, their lack of impact. Their doesn't go anywhere. It's just a line. Mention the line. And that's what we see in this part of the scripture that we read. It's just a line. Verse 10, verse 19. No? Verse 18 and 19. It doesn't really, their reward doesn't go very far. Their reward was just verse 19, just one line. Give them what they deserve. That's all. But you see, the wise people listen to authority. They get their information from authority. They pour their heart into what authority says. They listen to authority. They listen to who has the power to change and influence things. That's what they listen to. They act based on that. They keep walking till the authority tells them to stop, the authority to which they yield. Now, in the long run, everybody has an authority. Just that the foolish has decided to choose the crowd as their authority. The safe has decided to choose themselves as the authority. So they choose, I'll do this today, I'll do this tomorrow. And that never works. But the wise choose the true authority. They discover who has the real power. And that's what they listen to. That's what they focus on. That's what they do with their day. What the authority says. You see, something happened in Nigeria last year, 2022. The Naira notes, some of the Naira notes were redesigned and changed. And it was interesting what happened, the events that happened. The Naira notes were changed, came out in November 2022, or was it October? I can't remember. Maybe late November, early November, late October. The Naira notes were released. And it was interesting, the chain of events that happened leading up to 2023. The crowd spent time criticizing the Naira note, how ugly it was, how terrible the material was, how bad the color was, how the color was runny, how the old design was better than the new design. And they kept on talking about how this should be changed back. We should not go with this old one. We should not go with this old one. But remember, the crowd has no power. They can complain. They can be loud. It was on blogs. It was on TV. It was on everywhere. Everybody was talking social media. Everybody was talking about the ugliness of the new Naira notes. You see, but the wise looked at it and realized that the crowd doesn't have the power to change. This thing was going to go into effect the next year. They knew that this thing was going to kick into effect no matter what anybody said. And they went to banks and they demanded, you know what, instead of giving me those old ones, I want the new ones. I want the new ones. While the crowd was still like, oh, no, we don't like it. They spent months criticizing and rejecting something for which they had no control. Now, I will have you know that the wise didn't like the design either. It was a poor design. They didn't like the colors either. They didn't like the material. They knew it was inferior to the old one. They accepted that it was inferior. Just like in this passage, I'm sure those other servants, the first servant, the group of wise servants, they might have attested to the fact that it was a wicked, shrewd master. But they didn't let that influence what they were acting on. They still accepted that he was the authority. So you see, the wise knew, I don't like this note, but I need to get more of it. And they got as much as they could get, because they could see that once they withdraw these old ones, the new ones will be very scarce. So they went to the bank and they asked for it. The safe people had some old, had some new. Some old, some new. They didn't commit too much to changing their old notes. When the new year came, the notes were not changed. No matter how terrible the feedback was, and the feedback was terrible, but it didn't change. They went ahead with the new notes that most people hated. 99% hated, but 99% were ignored. And then you could see what happened. A lot of people missed out. A lot of people now knew that the attention was not about how beautiful it was. In fact, as a matter of fact, it became so scarce that it became beautiful in the eyes of the people who said it was ugly just some months later. It became beautiful by necessity. And that is what the wise realized much earlier on. Now I'll bring this back home to you as a business person, because this is basically a business platform. And you might say, how does this affect me as a business person? Every day you wake up as a business person, you choose either to be wise, to be safe, or to be foolish. That's what you choose. To be wise, to be safe, or to be foolish. You choose to be foolish if every day you get up, you don't know your authority. And I dare to say, the authority, the biggest authority in life is always God. If you don't have that right, then you've even missed. You don't know who the authority is. There's no way you can be wise. Once you don't know who is at the helm of things, God is the authority. The first thing you must do every morning is check with the authority. Now, some people feel the authority is the newspaper, the news channels, CNN channels, BBC, Arise TV. That's what they go to every morning. They wake up every morning and they read the dailies or they watch the news. And that's their authority that tells them what they do with their day. But that's not an authority. You understand? That's not the authority. You've missed the authority already. What the foolish people even do is they go to social media and they check what is the gist of the day. And the gist of the day runs their day. So they spend time, the very productive hours, thinking of what's the popular news. Oh, the popular news is Thames won a Grammy, Burna Boy won a Grammy. This movie is trending, is number one on Netflix. You know, what does social media say? Who won the World Cup? Who is the GOAT? Is it Messi or Ronaldo? You know, that's what they do. They are distracted by what the crowd is saying. Information that doesn't lead anywhere. That is foolishness. Because you make social media your authority. So you spend the first 5 hours of your day chatting back and forth, arguing, debating about things that don't really matter, inconsequential, things that don't bring a reward. Now you have the safe people. They want to be cool by knowing what is trending. And at the same time, they want to be safe by listening to who they think is authority. So those people might even accept God as authority. So they read the Bible in the morning, or read the Bible in the morning, they go out, they pray, then they go out and start mingling with crowd gist. So you see, they are at work because God has told them, focus on your work, the work I have for you to do today. But every 1 hour they focus, they spend another 1 hour listening to social media, chatting. So at the end of the day, they don't achieve much. They don't achieve much at all. So what would take them a week to complete takes them 2 months to complete. Because 1 step forward, 2 steps back. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That's what the safe do. They don't totally lose out, but they slow themselves down. And sometimes they don't achieve what they should achieve in time. So they're average at best. But the wise people listen to the authority. They wake up in the morning, pray, read their Bible, get spiritual value, go out and meditate on what they've read, what God is telling them. They chew on it every single day. It guides their steps. And they try to listen to what God would have them do per day, and they pour their heart into it. Now, it's not a matter of whether they like that assignment or not. It's not about liking it. It's an obedience to authority. They pour their heart into it. Is God telling them create a podcast? They create a podcast. God telling them write an article? They write an article. Is God telling them plant something? Plant a seed? They plant the seed. Is God telling them, take a photograph? They take the photograph. Bake a cake? They bake a cake. Attend to a client? They attend to a client. They do it with all their heart. And they make incredible progress in their life. They are not distracted by what is going on. Yes, the World Cup ended. Messi won the World Cup. It was good information, yes, but it's in the background for them. It's a blur. What is in their central vision is, what does God want me to do today? Yes, elections are coming. Everybody's talking about who to vote for, who not to vote for, and there's such a debate. Yes, I know who I will vote for. That information is put by the side. What does God want me to do today? That is not political. It is personal, interpersonal relationship. Who does God want me to reach out to? What investment does God want me to make with my time today? That is what the wise people do. And I want to encourage us to be wise in our dealings with our time. Now, you might not have a master that gives you money, but we have a master that gives us time each day. That is the value we have. Know how to use it. The crowd might be loud, but the crowd has no influence. Authority has power. So know who the true authority is and listen to the authority.